All right. Trump has said there will be no right to return for Palestinians after the U.S. takes over Gaza. I really thought, maybe this was a negotiation tactic on the part of Trump, but I don't know. The guy keeps talking about it, talking about essentially land theft. I mean, this land is worth money, and we're just going to take it from the Palestinians, not even give them any money for the land, not buy the land from them, just take it. It's ours, kick them off the land. We're going to build them some nice new homes somewhere in the desert, not on their beachfront property that they currently own. That is also loaded with some natural resources like natural gas reserves worth billions, hundreds of billions of dollars worth of natural gas there. But no, we're not going to buy that. We're not going to buy the natural gas fields. We're instead just going to take it and move them to the desert, and it's all going to be fine. This is what Trump has to say about no right of return.
We'll build beautiful communities for the 1.9 million people. We'll build beautiful communities, safe communities. Could be 5, 6, could be 2, but we'll build safe communities a little bit away from where they are, where all of this danger is. In the meantime, I would own this. Think of it as a real estate development for the future. It would be a beautiful piece of land.
Would the Palestinians have the right to return?
No, they wouldn't, because they're going to have much better housing, much better. In other words, I'm talking about building a permanent place for them. Because if they have to return now, it'll be years before you could ever. It's not habitable. It will be years before it could happen. I'm talking about starting to build, and I think I could make a deal with Jordan. I think I could make a deal with Egypt. We give them billions and billions of dollars a year.
Okay. So exactly how would that work? So you don't even have these houses for them now. So you're saying, oh, no, we can't let them come back. It'll take years before we can build them houses. You don't have houses for them now. It's going to take you years to build them houses right now. But you're saying, well, we could skip it because we don't have to do the land clearing. Well, you still have to have some infrastructure set up somewhere in the middle of the desert that you plan on putting them. I mean, do you have running water out there? Do you have electricity? Do you have all of the infrastructure that you need as a land developer before you can even start building houses? That all takes time. But no, we don't have that. We're just going to take the land. By the way, why would you even want to accept that trade? I mean, just think of you as a normal, person, and somebody saying, look, we're going to take your beachfront property that's loaded with natural gas. We're going to take that from you. We're going to swap it for some land in the desert. But he's saying, no, they will not have a right to return. So I think he is dead serious. And here's Netanyahu. Netanyahu went and he spoke to Mark Levin on Fox News. And this is what he says. Well, Trump just cut to the chase. He says, look, Israel's too small.
In this country, there's a lot of people who still wonder what role, if any, Saudi Arabia had in 9/11. Now, there's a lot of talk about Saudi Arabia, peace with Saudi Arabia. And then you read in the papers, well, Saudi Arabia says yes, but they have a caveat. There needs to be a Palestinian state. Since when did the Palestinians become so important to the Saudi Arabian?
Well, we got the Abraham Accords because we went around the Palestinians. Because the Palestinians, whether they're Hamas or their competitors, the Palestinian Authority, they both want to see the end of Israel. The only difference is Hamas says, let's use it immediately by terror and military means. And the other guys say, no, let's do it by lawfare, by the ICC. Let's put pressure on Israel to withdraw to these indefensible lines where we're, 9 miles wide. President Trump says Israel's too small. He cuts to the chase, gets right to the point. And he was just right. Well, we can't be any smaller. I mean, we're not going to have an organization that is committed to our destruction 9 miles from the sea. All they have to do is cut us in half, and we're dead. So, yeah, that's something that may have been debated in Israel. But after October 7th, after the massacre, that's gone. Nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to say, oh, just give them a Palestinian state. They just had one. It's called Gaza under Hamas. That was an effective Palestinian state. What happened with that, you see? It was used as a springboard in an attempt to destroy us. When we complete the changeover of the Middle East, when we cut the Iranian axis down to even further than we've already cut it, when we make sure that Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons, when we destroy Hamas, that will set the stage for an additional agreement with the Saudis and with others. By the way, I believe also in the Muslim world, because it's peace through strength. When we are very strong and we stand together, objections that are raised now as insurmountable sort of change.
All right, now that Fauci has been pardoned, RFK is going to unearth what most of us already knew about the pandemic. Sad, this effort won't help the tens of millions who have never felt the same after getting the virus or the mRNA shots. We all know someone with a personal story. Well, Pfizer has been forced to release a detailed list of side effects associated with its COVID-19 shots. And sadly, some of these issues like myocarditis and blood clots are creeping up on people in a blink, causing debilitating issues. A less severe but common concern is long COVID syndrome, a condition that leaves people feeling brain fog, chronic fatigue, and shortness of breath, lingering for months, in some cases years. The wellness company makes it easy for you with their new long COVID syndrome support. So you get 4 doctor-formulated nutraceuticals with 5 to 8 plants and minerals in each bottle designed to address the root causes. Ultimate Spike Detox, Mind Lift, Elevated Energy, and Healthy Heart. Dr. McCullough recommends a durable recovery through holistic health. So explore targeted solutions like long COVID syndrome support. Right now, you could save $40 on the bundle, plus get an additional $34 off, plus free shipping. Head to twc.health/Kim. Use code Kim. Take action today for a healthier tomorrow. So he says it right there, and he's got this giddy smirk on his face, like, whoa, Trump just cut to the chase. Israel's too small. We're not going to let them have a Palestinian state now. After what they did, we're not going to let them. They never were letting them. And he says, see, Gaza was effectively a Palestinian state, and see what happened there. How can you be your own sovereign nation when you don't control your resources at all? You don't have any control over your borders. You don't have any control over the airspace above you. You have no ports. You have no anything. I mean, the Israelis controlled what Gaza could build. They always blame the Palestinians and say, you could have had a beautiful Singapore in the Middle East, but you chose instead to spend all of your money on tunnels and bombs. And that's just not true. Israel never allowed any sort of equipment into Gaza to build. They never allowed them the resources to build. They didn't even let the children have macaroni and cheese or cookies or crayons. Everything was, well, for the security of the state of Israel, we can't allow you to have all of these things, because if you did, you would wreak terror. That's what you would do. In fact, Gaza has billions and billions of dollars worth of natural gas in a natural gas field on their shores. Why can't they develop it? What has happened with that? Israel has blocked them. Israel has prevented them from tapping into those resources. If they try, they get blown up. They get sniped. They get hit. That's what they do. I had a friend that actually went to the West Bank to help them build water infrastructure. He was a very pro-Israel guy, went there, Zionist, pro-Israel. And while he was there as an engineer trying to help them build water infrastructure, time and time again, over the 3 years' time that he was trying to do this, he saw the IDF snipe at the water engineers who were just surveying the ground to look at how they could build out this water infrastructure. And he watched these innocent Palestinians get sniped by the IDF, went over and over with the Israeli government trying to get the right permits to allow the Palestinians in the West Bank, not even their land, not even the Israelis' land, but had to go to the Israelis in order to get permits in order to build this water infrastructure, have those permits denied over and over and over again. Everything they say is a lie. When they sit there and say, well, it's the Palestinians' fault they didn't build anything. It's the Palestinians' fault that they didn't have this infrastructure. We gave them Gaza and they just didn't. Look what they did with it. No, this is all a lie, like everything else. I mean, at this point, I'm hoping that people can see when they've told us blatant lies over the last year and a half or so. I hope that people see that the entire narrative has been a lie, and the whole goal has been to take the land. And now Netanyahu is giddy that he's actually going to be able to do that. Here he is now saying that, goes on and talks about how Israel did more for civilians than any other nation. Israel has done more. We've seen the destruction. We've seen the destruction now that people are allowed to go in, but here they are lying to us again.
You mentioned civilian casualties. We've had expert after expert, John Spencer, the man from West Point, who's an expert on these issues, that the Israeli military has done more than any military in the history record keeping to protect civilians of an enemy country or enemy entity. And yet they keep that propaganda going. Hamas does, the New York Times uses it, CNN uses it, they use it all over the world. I mean, that's got to be so frustrating, because I think this helps drive the anti-Semitism, no?
You're absolutely right, and it's a web of lies. For example, they declared me in this kangaroo court called the ICC. They declared me a war criminal, right? And what am I charged with? That we deliberately starved the population of Gaza, right? Which is completely false. I mean, we gave instructions early on, not only to get them out of harm's way, but also to supply humanitarian supplies like food, water, whatever. But here's the thing. We took thousands of Palestinian Hamas prisoners, okay? You know what the first thing you do when you take a prisoner, a Palestinian Hamas prisoner? You want to make sure that he doesn't have an explosive belt on his, suicide belt, okay? So you ask them to take their shirts off. So now we have photos of thousands of these prisoners who have, without their shirt. And you will not find not one emaciated. In fact, you'll find quite a few who are overweight because they eat, because there's no starvation. And also they don't exercise, you don't get much exercise in the tunnels, right? In these terror tunnels that they built. So this is completely false. It's outrageous. I mean, these charges in the press are outrageous, and when they come from the International Criminal Court, it's outrageous. Not only because they compare Israel, a democratic country which has the highest standards of fighting a just war with just means, and they compare us to this monstrous terrorist organization of Hamas. It's not only because of that. It's outrageous because the charges are false. So you've got this assault coming in from lawfare on the one side, international lawfare, on the other side, international media, American media. It's outrageous. I just met with a group of leading American journalists, and I said, it's your job to get to the facts. You can't buy this nonsense.
Right. Well, let's get to some of the facts, shall we? Here is what Palestinian prisoners look like when they came back to Palestine from Israel. As Netanyahu just said, look, we didn't torture or starve their hostages. It's all, look at the facts, look at the images. Okay, look at the images. I mean, these are what Palestinians looked like when they came back only after weeks of being held. I mean, this guy that I just showed you right here was 45 days, not 491 days like the Israeli hostages that were just released, who also looked like they haven't eaten in a long time. This is after 45 days. I mean, look at these hostages, these Palestinian hostages, and how they look. And the Israelis are claiming that, no, they're not, don't believe the propaganda. Don't believe your lying eyes is what they're saying to you. And then also look at this destruction of Gaza as they sit there and, Mark Levin, who's a big Zionist, they're sitting there acting like we are the most humane military on earth. We are the military we were doing targeted strikes, very targeted strikes. And then you look at Gaza and look at this destruction the whole place is completely destroyed. And they're claiming, no, it was targeted and we didn't do anything wrong. There was nothing wrong that was done here. So now the Israeli hostages have come out and they're looking, the latest ones are looking quite emaciated. This is 3 of them. Now, the previous ones looked really healthy. The women were looking quite healthy, but now they've started releasing some of the men, and the men don't look very healthy. This goes to show that, and what they were trying to claim with the women was that the Palestinians had some super secret scientific medical way of making the women go from looking starved to really healthy in the matter of just days. Like just somehow they were able to medically do this, which makes a lot of sense, right? They have that kind of technology. Then why didn't they use it on the men? So clearly the Palestinians, Hamas, were keeping the women healthy, treating the women well. Obviously, the males, there was limited food in Gaza. They're probably giving all the food to the women, the children, and the fighters. And so men would be the ones to suffer if there wasn't adequate food. And obviously, the Israeli men would suffer the most if there wasn't enough food. But here's Israel acting amazed that the concentration camp they created for the Palestinians would result in hostages coming out looking like they survived a concentration camp. mean, how could you be shocked after you've blocked aid for months and months on end? How could you be shocked that they come out not looking like they received aid? I mean, did you think that the Palestinians would give aid to your fighters, your IDF soldiers, before they fed their own population, their women and children? But here's Donald Trump talking about this. Of course, not a single word about the Palestinian prisoners who were tortured. We've heard heinous things happen to them, and we've seen the images of what they look like. But here's Donald Trump saying, "Oh, did you see the Israelis?"
I watched the hostages come back today, and they look like Holocaust survivors. They were in horrible condition. They were emaciated. It looked like many years ago, the Holocaust survivors. And I don't know how much longer we can take that when I watch that. I know we have a deal where we're supposed to they dribble in and keep dribbling in, but they are in really bad shape. They have been treated brutally, horribly. Even the ones that came out earlier, they were in a little bit better shape, but mentally they were treated so badly. Who could take that? At some point, we're going to lose our patience. When I see that scene that I saw today with people coming out of helicopters and airplanes that are emaciated, that look like they haven't had a meal in a month, no reason for that. And I don't know how much longer we can take it.
Do you mean you want to recast?
I don't know how long we can take it. When I watch people that were healthy people a reasonably short number of years ago, and you look at them today, they look like they've aged 25 years. They literally look like the old pictures of Holocaust survivors. The same thing. I mean, the same thing. And I don't know how long we're going to take that.
Every time I give him a little bit of hope, thinking, I give him a little slack, like, well, maybe he said this because of XYZ reason. Then just something like this comes out, and it's like, where was your shock for the Palestinian prisoners that have been coming out looking like this? Where's the shock? Where's the shock for the little children in Gaza who are being killed point blank, shot in the head by the IDF? The toddlers shot in the head by the IDF. Where's the outrage over that? Why are we just outraged over 3 men coming out looking like they didn't receive the aid that Israel blocked? Why are we, what's the deal here? There was one of the hostages. It's very, it's tragic on both sides for sure. For hostages, it's tragic. And one of the Israeli hostages, one thing that's been going around has been that one of them, Eli Sharabi, was held for 491 days. And when he was asked by Hamas on the stage, they do kind of their show, and he said he was looking forward to seeing his wife and his 2 daughters, being reunited with his wife and 2 daughters. And the horrible thing about that is that his wife and 2 daughters were killed on October 7th. He was not going to be going home to them. And in fact, his brother, who was also taken hostage, had died in Gaza. So there's a lot of all the hype on the internet and throughout the mainstream media and Donald Trump and all of them. They're talking about these hostages coming out looking like Holocaust victims. They're then saying, and the inhumanity of it, that Hamas would let them believe that their wife and children were still alive when they were killed on October 7th by those barbarians, and the brother was killed by those barbarians. But here's the thing, we actually don't know who killed the wife, the kids, or even the brother. It's now come out that Israel did, in fact, this was confirmed by Yoav Gallant, the former defense minister. It has come out that Israel did, in fact, use the Hannibal Directive.
אני חושב שבאופן טקטי במקומות שונים ניתנה, במקומות אחרים לא ניתנה, וזו בעיה.
So let's play that again, and we'll just kind of translate this. So was the order given to use the Hannibal Directive? And he goes and he answers this question. See if we can. He says, I think tactically in some places it was. In other places, it was not, and that is a problem. So
number
he's
one-
admitting right there that the Hannibal Directive was tactically used in certain areas, and that in other areas it was not. The areas that we know of where it was used, according to Haaretz, they've interviewed a lot of people, and it was actually the kibbutz Be'eri. And that kibbutz is where the hostage, Eli Sharabi, that's where his wife and kids were. So there's a very good chance, knowing that the IDF killed a lot of their own people at kibbutz Be'eri, and Eli's family was there. There's a very good chance the IDF killed his family. We also know from the hostages and just what we've learned and what we've seen and what Israel's even admitted is that they've killed their own hostages in Gaza, that they bombed buildings and their hostages died in the same way that Palestinians did. And so there's a possibility that his brother was also killed by the IDF. And all of that eventually is going to come out. But when it comes out, the problem is it comes out too late. They don't tell us until, just like now with Yoav Gallant admitting the Hannibal Directive. Well, at the time when many great reporters like Max Blumenthal and oh my gosh, Aaron Mate, sorry, I had his face in my mind and it was slipping, but you've got Max Blumenthal and Aaron Mate, and they're reporting on the Hannibal Directive, and they're being called liars and making it up, and then mainstream media like Haaretz starts to say, yeah, there was the Hannibal Directive, but by then it's too late. And now that Yoav Gallant has admitted it, now it's too late. Where's the mainstream media? Where are they now to admit that this was used, that this was not propaganda, Hamas propaganda or Iranian propaganda, but that was actually used? Real reporters were reporting on that, and it was largely ignored, and it still remains ignored. So now we know that was used, and it's tragic for the Israelis who are just being forced to ignore that fact, not blame their government at all, which that many of them are, but they're being completely silenced. And instead, it's just all the Palestinians' fault. And that's why we got to get them off the land, take it, and shove them to the desert. We're going to do ethnic cleansing. The one thing that you guys all claim we were doing, you lob all these anti-Semitic claims at us, claiming that we're going to be doing ethnic cleansing and Holocaust and genocide, and we're not at all. And then now, months later, they admit, well, I mean, if we're going to clear the land, they can't have their own state. We got to clear the land of all these people. Of course, we have to clear the land. Of course. Just absolutely terrible and sickening, the entire thing. So thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iversen Show. If you want to watch the full show, visit KimIversonShow.com. The show airs every Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Again, it's KimIversonShow.com. See you there.